What if everything you've ever believed about the world's oldest alcoholic drink was wrong? Most people would answer beer, others would confidently say wine, a few might even guess cider, but none of them came first, long before vineyards covered the hills of Europe. Long before breweries filled ancient cities with the smell of barley, before kings ruled mighty empires, before the pyramids stood above the Egyptian desert, before writing, before money, before civilization itself, humanity had already discovered a mysterious golden drink. A drink made from only three simple ingredients: honey, water, and time. Its name was mead. For thousands of years, mead wasn't just another alcoholic drink. It was considered the drink of the gods. It was served inside royal palaces, used in sacred ceremonies, shared during weddings, poured after great victories. Viking warriors believed it filled them with courage before battle. Ancient poets believed it unlocked creativity. Priests believed it connected humans with the divine. Kings believed it symbolized wealth and power. Yet today, most people have never even tasted it. How could the drink that once ruled the ancient world almost disappear from history? Who discovered it? Was it really the first alcoholic beverage ever made? Or was it simply one of history's greatest accidents? Today, we're traveling back almost 9,000 years to uncover the forgotten story of humanity's oldest known alcoholic drink. But before we begin, if you enjoy fascinating history, forgotten civilizations, and incredible food stories like this one, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us continue bringing you amazing historical documentaries every week. Now, let's step back to a world before civilization even existed. Imagine opening your eyes nearly 10,000 years ago. There are no roads, no castles, no cities, no farms, no books, no maps, no coins, no kingdoms. Only endless forests stretching farther than the eye can see. Towering mountains covered in mist, wild rivers flowing freely, animals far larger and more dangerous than anything most people encounter today. You belong to a small tribe of hunter-gatherers. Your entire world consists of perhaps 30 or 40 people. Everyone depends on one another. Every sunrise begins with uncertainty. Will today's hunt succeed? Will there be enough berries? Will the river provide fish? Will everyone survive another winter? Life isn't comfortable. It isn't predictable. Every single day is a battle against hunger. The tribe follows migrating animals across enormous landscapes. Children learn survival before they learn to speak properly. The elderly become living libraries, remembering where water can be found during dry seasons, which berries are poisonous, and which plants can heal wounds. Nature decides everything. One successful hunt means celebration, several means starvation, because food is never guaranteed. People value every gift nature offers: wild fruits, seeds, nuts, fresh water, and one treasure above all others: honey. Today, buying honey is as simple as picking up a jar from a supermarket shelf, but for prehistoric humans, honey was one of the rarest and most valuable foods on Earth. Wild bees didn't build neat wooden hives. They hid inside hollow trees, rocky cliffs, deep caves, places almost impossible to reach. Finding a hive was already difficult. Collecting its honey was even more dangerous. Hunters climbed unstable cliffs without ropes. Others balanced high above the ground using only tree branches. Many carried burning grass to create smoke that calmed the bees. Even then, thousands of angry bees attacked without mercy. Painful stings covered their bodies. Some people fell from dangerous heights. Some never returned home. Yet tribes continued risking their lives, because the reward was extraordinary. Honey wasn't just sweet, it was pure energy. In a world where sugar didn't exist, honey was liquid gold. Children smiled when they tasted it. Hunters regained strength after exhausting journeys. Mothers carefully shared it among their families. Elders treasured every precious drop. It became one of humanity's first luxury foods. Some tribes even treated honey as something sacred. It healed wounds, preserved food, mixed with herbs for medicine, offered during rituals. Nature had created something truly remarkable. But hidden inside every drop of honey was another secret. A secret. It was magical, but because it was microscopic, floating silently through the air were tiny wild yeast cells. Ancient humans had absolutely no idea they existed. They couldn't see them. They couldn't understand them. Yet these invisible organisms were quietly waiting for the perfect opportunity. And eventually, nature provided it. Perhaps one rainy afternoon, someone stored fresh honey inside a clay pot, or maybe inside an animal skin. Some historians believe it could even have been stored inside a hollow log. No one knows for certain. History never recorded that exact moment, but scientists believe the discovery happened naturally. Rainwater slowly mixed with the thick honey. Instead of sticky syrup, it became a sweet liquid. The container was forgotten. Days passed, then weeks. The weather remained warm. Invisible yeast floating through the air landed inside the mixture, and something extraordinary began. Without fire, without tools, without human knowledge, yeast started feeding on the natural sugars found inside the honey. As it consumed those sugars, tiny bubbles slowly appeared at the same time. Alcohol quietly began forming inside the liquid. No explosions, no dramatic transformation, just silent chemistry, working every hour, every day. Every night, finally, someone returned to the forgotten container. The liquid looked different, it smelled different, curious. Someone carefully lifted it. Perhaps they hesitated, perhaps they wondered if it had spoiled. Then, one cautious sip changed everything. The sweetness remained, but now there was something completely new. A pleasant warmth spread through the body. The drink felt alive, different from water, different from fruit juice, different from anything humanity had ever experienced before. No one understood why, no one knew what alcohol was, no one had words like fermentation or yeast, yet they immediately realized something important. This strange golden drink made people feel different. Soon, others wanted to taste it. The tribe celebrated together. Laughter became louder. Stories lasted longer. The mysterious drink quickly became associated with happiness, celebration, and community. What began as a forgotten container of honey had become one of the greatest accidental discoveries in human history. Without realizing it, humanity had created mead. Not because someone invented it, but because nature revealed one of its oldest secrets. That single accidental discovery didn't remain a secret for long. No one knew what fermentation was. No one had ever heard the word yeast, but people quickly noticed something incredible. Whenever honey was mixed with water and left untouched for several days, the strange golden drink appeared again. It wasn't magic, it wasn't a blessing from the sky, it was simply nature repeating the same miracle over and over again. Generation after generation, people remembered the process. Parents taught their children. Children grew into elders. And slowly, one of humanity's oldest recipes was born. There were no written instructions. Everything was learned by watching. A little more honey, a little less water. Leave the pot in a warm place. Wait patiently. Nature would do the rest. Every tribe developed its own version. Some batches tasted sweeter, some became stronger, some were lighter in color, others turned darker with age. No two pots were exactly the same, yet every single one carried the same mysterious effect. For perhaps the first time in human history, people weren't drinking simply to survive. They were drinking to celebrate. Around the evening fire, hunters shared stories of dangerous animals. Children laughed as elders retold ancient legends. Successful hunts became feasts. And at the center of those celebrations was the golden drink made from honey. Thousands of years passed. Human civilization slowly began to change. People stopped wandering endlessly through forests. They started planting crops. They built permanent homes. Villages appeared, then towns. Then some of the greatest civilizations the world had ever seen. Yet through all these changes, Mead survived, because wherever bees existed, honey existed. And wherever honey existed, Mead could be made. One of the earliest civilizations to embrace honey was ancient Egypt. The Egyptians respected honey like few cultures ever had. It wasn't just food, it wasn't simply medicine. Honey was considered a sacred gift. Beekeepers carefully floated their clay beehives along the Nile River, following blooming flowers from one region to another. The better the flowers, the better the honey. Inside magnificent temples, priests offered honey to the gods. Inside royal palaces, only the wealthiest families could enjoy large quantities of it. Even after death, honey remained important. When archaeologists opened ancient Egyptian tombs, they discovered sealed jars of honey that were thousands of years old. Remarkably, many were still perfectly preserved. Imagine tasting something prepared before the pyramids were ancient. That alone tells us how extraordinary honey truly was. Naturally, it didn't take long before Egyptians also appreciated fermented honey drinks. Although beer became the everyday drink of workers, honey-based drinks remained symbols of luxury, religion, and celebration. To drink mead wasn't just to enjoy alcohol, it was to enjoy something precious. Meanwhile, thousands of kilometers away, another remarkable discovery was taking place in central China. Archaeologists uncovered ancient pottery from the village of Jiafu. The vessels were nearly 9,000 years old. Scientists carefully examined tiny chemical traces left inside the pottery. The results surprised the entire archaeological world. Those ancient containers had once held a fermented drink made from rice, fruit, and honey. It was one of the oldest known alcoholic beverages ever discovered. Long before history books, long before written language, different civilizations had reached the same discovery completely independently, without meeting each other, without sharing recipes. Nature itself had become their teacher. As civilizations expanded, trade routes connected distant lands. Merchants didn't carry only gold and spices. They also carried ideas, new foods, new farming techniques, and new ways of making drinks. The knowledge of honey fermentation slowly traveled from one culture to another. Every civilization gave the drink its own name, its own traditions, its own flavors, yet the heart of the recipe never changed. Honey, what a time. Then came ancient Greece, a civilization that transformed ordinary ideas into timeless legends. Greek writers often described honey as food fit for the gods. Many believed the earliest humans had lived during a mythical golden age, when rivers flowed with milk and honey to them. Honey represented purity, life, and divine favor. Some Greek scholars even claimed that before wine became common, mead had been humanity's first alcoholic drink. Whether completely accurate or not, It reveals how highly respected mead had become. Greek physicians also admired honey. The famous Dr. Hippocrates, often called the father of medicine, recommended honey in many natural remedies. Mixed with fermented honey drinks were believed to restore strength, aid digestion, and help people recover from illness. In the ancient world, medicine and food often walked hand in hand. As centuries continued, another empire began changing Europe forever, the mighty Roman Empire. The Romans loved wine. Their vineyards stretched across enormous territories. Every conquered region planted more grapevines. Wine became cheaper, easier to produce, easier to transport. Gradually, wine began replacing mead across much of southern Europe, but mead refused to disappear. Instead, it found a new home in colder northern lands, regions where grapes struggled to grow, where forests covered the landscape, where bees thrived, and among those northern people, one civilization would forever become connected with the legend of mead. The Vikings, for them, mead wasn't simply another alcoholic drink. It was a symbol of honor, a reward for bravery, a drink worthy of warriors and kings. As Roman influence faded across northern Europe, the Norse people preserved traditions that much of the rest of Europe had begun to forget. After weeks at sea, longships finally returned to the village. Families gathered along the shore. Children ran toward their fathers. The smell of roasted meat filled the cold evening air. Inside the great wooden longhouse, massive fires burned throughout the night. Warriors placed their shields against the walls. Their swords rested beside heavy wooden tables. Then, large drinking horns were filled with golden mead. Every successful voyage ended with a feast. Every victory deserved a toast. Every important decision was celebrated with honey wine. To the Vikings, mead represented unity. The first horn was often raised to honor the gods. The second honored fallen warriors. The third celebrated family and friends. Drinking wasn't simply entertainment. It was tradition. It was respect. It was part of everyday life. Their mythology made mead even more legendary. According to Norse legends, there existed a magical drink called the mead of poetry. It wasn't ordinary mead. It possessed incredible power. Anyone who drank it would instantly become wise. A gifted poet, an unmatched storyteller, a brilliant scholar. The legend says this magical mead was created from the blood of Kvasir, the wisest being ever created by the gods. After his death, his blood was mixed with honey. The result became the most valuable drink in existence. Even Odin, the king of the Norse gods, risked everything to steal it, disguising himself, outsmarting giants, traveling impossible distances, all for a single drink. Whether history or mythology, the message remained clear. To the Norse people, mead wasn't just alcohol. It represented wisdom, knowledge, creativity. Very few drinks in history have ever carried such powerful symbolism. Across medieval Europe, mead continued flowing through castles and villages. Kings served it during royal banquets. Monks quietly brewed it inside monasteries. Farmers made small batches after successful honey harvests, but something had begun to change. Not suddenly, not dramatically, slowly, almost invisibly, another drink was quietly taking over Europe: beer. Unlike honey, barley could be grown almost everywhere. Large fields produced enormous harvests every year. The more grain people harvested, the more beer they could brew. Beer was cheaper, faster to produce, and far easier to make in large quantities. A single beekeeper might spend months collecting enough honey for one batch of mead. Meanwhile, a village brewery could produce barrels of beer using grain harvested from nearby fields. For ordinary people, the choice became obvious. Beer filled more cups, fed more families, cost less money. As towns expanded, beer became the drink of the people. Wine was also growing stronger. Across France, Italy, and many other regions, vineyards covered entire landscapes. Generations of winemakers improved their techniques. Trade routes expanded. Merchant ships carried enormous barrels of wine across Europe. Wine became a symbol of wealth in the south. Beer dominated the north, and caught between the two giants, mead slowly lost its throne. The greatest challenge wasn't taste. People still loved mead. The problem was its main ingredient. Honey remained expensive. Bees worked only when flowers bloomed. Bad weather could destroy an entire season. Harsh winters killed colonies. Every batch of honey required enormous effort. Without honey, there could be no mead. Without enough mead, production remained small. As populations grew larger, the world demanded cheaper drinks. Beer answered that demand. Mead couldn't. Yet despite its decline, it refused to disappear. Deep forest, green mountain villages, small farming communities, old monasteries. These places protected ancient recipes like family treasure. Cunts taught their children exactly as their ancestors had done centuries earlier. No books, no measurements, only experience, only tradition. Every region developed its own style. Some added apples, others mixed berries. Many flavored their mead with herbs, cinnamon, juniper, mint cloves. Every village proudly claimed its recipe was the finest. Although mead was disappearing from major cities, its story continued quietly in the countryside. One tradition became so famous that it survives even today. When a couple married, friends and family often gifted them enough mead to last an entire lunar month, around 30 days. People believed drinking honey wine during the first month of marriage would bring happiness, prosperity, and healthy children. Many historians believe this beautiful custom eventually inspired the word. Whether entirely true or not, the connection between honey, marriage, and celebration has survived for centuries, even today. Millions of couples celebrate a honeymoon without realizing its possible connection to one of history's oldest drinks. But an even bigger change was coming, a discovery that would transform drinking forever. Powerful distilled spirits, whiskey, rum, brandy, gin, vodka. Compared to these stronger drinks, Mead suddenly seemed gentle, old-fashioned, and by the 18th century, the drink that had once united tribes, inspired kings, and filled Viking halls had almost disappeared from the world. Its story, however, was far from over. For nearly 200 years, Mead lived quietly in the shadows. Most people had forgotten it. Beer dominated taverns, wine ruled royal tables, whiskey, rum, and brandy became symbols of the modern world. The drink that had once been called the drink of the gods seemed destined to disappear forever. Ancient recipes gathered dust inside old monasteries. Family traditions slowly faded away. Wooden barrels that once held honey wine were replaced by beer casks, generation after generation. Fewer people even remembered what real mead tasted like. It looked as though history had finally closed the last chapter of humanity's oldest alcoholic drink. But history has an unusual habit. The greatest stories never truly die. They simply wait for someone to rediscover them. Archaeologists began making astonishing discoveries. Ancient pottery buried beneath the earth, royal tombs, medieval monasteries, forgotten manuscripts. Each discovery revealed another small piece of the puzzle. Scientists carefully analyzed chemical traces inside thousands of years old pottery again and again. They found the same evidence: honey, fermentation, alcohol. Every new discovery confirmed something remarkable. Mead wasn't simply an old legend. It was one of humanity's earliest surviving alcoholic drinks, perhaps even the oldest. Suddenly, historians weren't just reading about mead, they were proving its existence. At the same time, a new generation of brewers became fascinated by forgotten traditions. Instead of creating another beer, they asked a different question: what did our ancestors actually drink? Old recipes were translated, ancient brewing techniques were recreated, beekeepers partnered with craft brewers, small experimental batches appeared. Some copied Viking recipes, others recreated medieval English meads, some added herbs exactly as monks had done centuries earlier, others experimented with fruits, flowers, spices, and oak barrels. The response surprised everyone. People loved it, not because it was trendy, but because it tasted unlike anything else. Soft, floral, rich with honey, sometimes sweet, sometimes dry, sometimes sparkling, sometimes still. Every bottle told a different story because every flower produced different honey. No two meads were ever exactly the same. Today, thousands of craft meaderies operate around the world. Countries like Poland, England, Lithuania, Sweden, the United States, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand have helped bring this ancient drink back to life. Historical festivals proudly serve mead in wooden mugs. Medieval fairs celebrated every year. Viking museums demonstrate how it was once brewed. Even modern restaurants now pair mead with gourmet food. The drink that almost disappeared has become fashionable once again. But perhaps the most fascinating part of Mead's story is how little the recipe has changed. Modern breweries use stainless steel tanks, temperature-controlled rooms, laboratory-tested yeast, advanced equipment, yet the heart of the recipe remains exactly the same as it was thousands of years ago: honey, water, yeast. 3 simple ingredients. Nothing more, nothing less. The same natural process discovered by accident before civilization still creates the same magical transformation today. Nature has never changed its recipe. Only humans have changed the containers. Think about that for a moment. The same drink once enjoyed by prehistoric hunter-gatherers was later served inside Egyptian temples. It reached the tables of Greek philosophers, filled the drinking horns of Viking warriors, celebrated medieval weddings, nearly vanished from history, and now, in the 21st century, it has returned once again. Very few foods or drinks can claim a journey spanning nearly 9,000 years. Empires rose, empires fell. Languages disappeared, borders changed, religions evolved, technology transformed the world, yet somehow Mead survived them all. Perhaps that's why its story feels so special, because it reminds us that some of humanity's greatest discoveries were never planned. No scientist invented mead, no king ordered its creation, no civilization claimed ownership. It was simply nature, working quietly in the background. A forgotten pot of honey, a little rainwater, invisible wild yeast, time, patience, curiosity. Sometimes history doesn't begin with a battle. Sometimes it begins with a single sip. The next time someone asks, what was humanity's first alcoholic drink? You might think of beer or wine, but now you know the story hidden behind history. Long before breweries, long before vineyards, long before civilization itself, there was a golden drink made from honey, a drink that united families, inspired legends, honored kings, celebrated love, and survived for thousands of years. That drink was Mead, the world's oldest alcoholic drink, and perhaps one of the sweetest stories ever written in human history. Thank you for watching.